Hey, welcome to this video. In here, I'm going to do a quick review session about SOCS and Unit 1 content, everything related to AP Stats. And I know AP exam is coming soon and everyone was preparing for it really hard. So I hope this video will help you a lot review the details and the structures of each unit. So I will do those kind of videos unit per unit. Sometimes the content will be overlap or extended out a little bit, but most of them will be follow the curriculum of the AP Exam Center. So let's begin. This is our very first review session. So AP Stats, review of descriptive statistics. First of all, what are the types of data that we're examining? Well, we have quantitative data and categorical data, basically. Those are the two main categories that we're focused on. And in quantitative data, we are also have two categories, which is discrete and continuous. Discrete means whole numbers and continuous means always a value between two numbers. So for example, 2 and 3, you will have 2.1, 2.14, 2.147, or etc. So qualitative or categorical data are you grouping the data into categories. So it cannot be measured numerically. For example, you can categorize the colors of hat by red, blue, yellow, such as that things. And also we have univariate data, which just means one variable, and bivariate data are two variables. And just a quick review of SOCS. So how are you going to describe a data? Every time you do that thing, you're going to mention those four things: shape, outlier, center, or spread. So SOCS. And graphical displays of univariate data are those followings. First of all, we can use bar charts, which basically using for categorical data. And like categorical data is when you're graphing it using bar charts, you mainly just graph different bars, label the names of each under the x-axis, and be sure to have space between each bars, because that's a huge difference for you to separate that out from a histogram. And segmented bar charts are basically two variables, so it still looks like a bar chart, but instead of each bars only represent one category of variable, we have both x and y axes have variables. So one bar chart mainly contains two variables for each bar. And the frequency table contains frequency table, basically we have two-way tables. So it has marginal distribution and conditional distributions. And histogram, just as I said before, it looks really similar with the bar charts, but we just don't have the space between. So for example, it can go from 0 to 99 and from 100 to 199, such as that. Next, we have dot plot and stem and leaf plot and cumulative relative frequency plot and box plot. So just be sure to familiarize with the first two, dot plot and stem and leaf plot. So dot plot is just like you have a bunch of dots for each categories, and stem leaf plots is like you are drawing a tree and the center is the trunk and you have a lot of leaves and branches like extending out. And the cumulative relative frequency plot is also called the ogive curve. And how are you going to draw it? Or usually most of the cases you won't asking you to draw it, but the question will give you kind of that graph, and you should be able to identify that. So mostly they will have numbers labeled at the x-axis, and the y-axis mainly are the frequencies or the percentage. So for example, for number 2, it has 30%, and for number 3, I mean, it seems like it has 70%, and for number 4, it has 100%. So always remember, for an ogive curve, it will ultimately reach 100%. So it will not extend 100% or below 100%. It will always be 100% at the end. And for the box plot, I think we are pretty familiarized with it. It's just like remember the 5-number summary and the Q1, Q3, IQR, and minimum and maximum. Yeah. And so remember, those are all the quantitative variables, which is the main object that we are dealing with in AP Stats. So, but you also have to make sure you know what is the categorical data. And if a multiple choice question gives you how to identify categorical data versus quantitative data, you have to make sure that you can able to do that. Okay, moving on to interpreting graphical displays. So this is what I talked at the beginning of the video: center, shape, and spread. Also outliers. Sometimes you will be able to mention clusters or gaps, but mainly SOCS are the 4 components you will be mentioning when you asking to describe a data or a histogram most of the cases. So always remember to put that into context. You can't just say like generally it's how it looks like. You have to say, well, what is given to the question, how can I put my words into context? And that's really important. For numerical descriptions of univariate data, we have center, which has those 3 key terms: mean, mode, and median. So mean, basically you just use that formula n+1/2. Median, n+1/2 is for median, and that's how you find the location of median. It's not the value of that median. And for mean, you're just doing the same thing like we used to do. And most of the cases, the AP test won't ask you to interpret or find a mode of a data, so we can just eliminate that out. But you can also feel free to search it up if you are curious about it. And for spread, there are also a couple key terms: range, interquartile range, also known as IQR, the standard deviation. Remember, for population and sample, they have different variables or symbols. For a variance, it also has 2 symbols: S-squared and data-squared. For 5-number summary, we have min, Q1, median, Q3, and maximum. And I believe S is for population and data is for sample. I think so, yes. And how to find an outlier, you will use the fence method, which the lower fence you will use Q1 minus 1.5 times IQR. For the upper one, you will use Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR. Okay. So moving on to how to summarizing a univariate data, location and position. Sorry, I was trying to adjust the screen right here. It was pretty tough for me to do that here. Okay. Okay, anyway, we have those several methods. Empirical rule, which is 68, 95, 99.7%. This is how it usually works on a normal curve. For quartiles and percentiles, it's also pretty useful. And we used z-scores a lot. This is a standardized scores. And the formula for z-score is x minus mu over data. So basically, the question will give you a normal curve and the mean standard deviation for that, and it will ask you to find the like what percentage of that curve corresponding with what x value. So what you can do is you will use that x value, put that into the formula, and get the z-score. The standard normal curve is mostly you will label the mean as 0 and standard deviation as 1, but again, this is just a standard normal curve. Most of the cases, the question will give you a mean and standard deviation, or it will ask you to calculate the standard deviation, and in that case, you will just first find the mean and standard deviation and put that into your calculator. How to determining a data are normal? You can use graphing, which is histogram, on your calculator. Also use empirical rule, which is 68, 95, 99.7%. Normal probability plots are z and x. You will just label not label, but you will find the probability plot on your calculator, and you can see how it looks like. If it's straight, then it's normal. Like the more straight the curve it is, then the more normal the data are. So if it's pretty curvy, then you know that it's not normal. How to compare distributions, back-to-back stem plots or parallel box plots? Okay, so this is one type of stem plot. I know I didn't draw the graph for the stem plot in like the previous session, like not the previous part, but there are actually two types of stem plot, and this is a common one. So you can see at the center of the column, the 0, 1, 2, and you will have two different branches extending out from the center of the tree, basically the stem. So in here it means 10, 20, and 70. And here is 1, 3, and 5. So remember that you always count it from the left. Yeah, and the same for both sides. And parallel box plot, it's also you're gonna adjusting your screen on your calculator to have two box plots fit in one screen, and therefore you can compare like, well, how does the mean for each box plot related to each other, and how is the IQR or mean and max, etc. Okay, so yeah, so that's basically everything that I am going to cover in this video, and I hope it just gives you a general picture of how a Unit 1, or most of the cases like SOCS, SOCS looks like. How are you gonna like be able to identify all of those key terms and the graphs, and how are you gonna describe the distribution? So yeah, I hope that helps, and thank you so much for watching. More videos, stay tuned.